just like we've landed. Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher from Sweetwater, and I've got a special guest with me. Chris Meikle's here. You are COO of St. Louis Music, but today, more importantly, you are the head of Alvarez Guitars.
That's the important bit.
Yeah, man, we're so excited to welcome Alvarez to the Sweetwater family. It's just awesome to have you here.
It's humbling to be here, and great to that Sweetwater will be representing us. And after seeing what you do to our guitars here, it's amazing. We're very excited.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you for saying so. And likewise, we're so excited as well because they're beautiful instruments. We have two obviously gorgeous examples here that we were playing and enjoying, but something like 137 guitars of various types in the line and 37 ukuleles. I think I'm remembering correctly. So, man, it's a huge range of instruments that the company makes. Take us back. To where the company came from, and tell us a little bit of the story.
Okay, so the brand was formed in 1965. It's owned by St. Louis Music, and St. Louis Music is 100 years old this year. We had a big party in St. Louis in May, and it was started by the Kornboom family, and they started the company with Nilling violins, which we still own and sell. And Bernard would import violin parts to begin with, and then that grew into instruments from Europe. And then in the 60s, Bernard's son, Gene Kornboom, joined the company. And Gene was an excellent business person and budding marketer. And in the late 60s, he first of all, Alvarez was primarily sold sort of very affordable classical instruments, hence he wanted to choose a Spanish-sounding name. And then in the late 60s, he traveled to Japan because it was opening up for manufacturing. And he met a master luthier called Kazuo Yairi. And obviously, everything else is history, as I say, but they formed a great friendship and a great relationship. Yairi had been there for decades prior to that. They made violins, and then they made concert classical guitars. And when Gene met Kazuo, they said, could you make us steel strings? And he said, let's try. So between 69 to the end of 70, they developed dreadnoughts and OMs and started shipping them, I think late 70, early 71, and Alvarez was born.
Yeah. Wow, and here we are 50-some years later.
7 years later.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But part of what's driven the company, and I believe is still really the motto behind what goes on there, if you will, is the continual R&D is a motto that I saw on your website, and there's so much to. Tell us a little bit what that means for Alvarez.
I think, as I sort of mentioned, there's a real, the culture within the company is pretty humble, and it's all, especially in Japan, where it's really about the craft and testing ourselves and obviously learning more and more, and also tastes change as well throughout time, and noticing that and developing products that musicians want or maybe request or dream of or whatever else. And I think that Mr. Yairi always, he was a very humble person. He was a great sort of leader of men, a very charismatic man, but on the other side, quite quiet and humble. And he just always tested his knowledge, and whether it was, bridge design or whatever else. And that's somehow stayed with us, and we love making stuff. We love learning.
Yeah.
And, we're all musicians, so you just, we're playing around with things, and we have engineers in the team, we have musicians in the team, and we have designers in the team, and between that we ask questions and we try and make things better. I don't think there's ever not a week or a day we're not making samples, or there's samples in the air flying somewhere for evaluation or something.
Yeah.
So
which is great. That's how you keep moving forward.
Exactly.
Maintain the legacy of all that was good and wonderful, and then you continually enhance that. That's wonderful.
And it's good fun, that's what it's about. So.
Right. So a few of the hallmarks of the Alvarez guitars that occur to me, one is that you have multiple different bracing styles that you use. You just put a piece of wood in there, right?
That's all you do. Just throw it in. Fingers crossed.
There's a little more to it, isn't there?
Little bit, hopefully. I trained a little bit with William Compiano, who wrote one of the books of how to make guitars, and I lived in his basement and worked in his studio and learned how to build instruments, and it was William that said, there's one real equation in guitar making, and it's finding the perfect balance between strength and vibration. And that's right. Beyond that is how you want to color the sound, how you want the guitar to look. But it has to be strong enough to last, and it has to be weak enough to vibrate enough so you can form a voice that you want from the instrument. And the bracing is a massive part of that. Neck joints and the woods you choose, body shape is all hugely influential. The player, of course. Mm-hmm. But bracing, you have an X brace which comes from C.F. Martin's early thinking, where he kind of he wanted to get to a pinned brace style instead of a classical style, which was tied. Mm-hmm. So he thought, I need these braces out of the way, because classicals used to have like 5 or 6 fan braces down here. And whether he knew perfectly what he was doing, or it was a great design through trying different things, the X brace for me is the classic construction, because it's very strong. It gives the guitar all the structural integrity that it needs, and that's what the X is doing. And it allows you, where you place that X, to influence the sound of the guitar very much. So when we say forward shifted, which is one of our patterns, what forward shifted means is that the axis of the X, so there's an X brace that runs through this guitar, right, for strength. Where it crosses is the axis, which if that is forward, it's very near the sound hole. So if you move that X forward, it comes here, which allows for a very large soundboard area. This is your soundboard. If that X is further back and the struts come down, you've got a smaller free area here. And sometimes the X's will come under the bridge. If it's very forward, the bridge is more floating. The soundboard area is larger, so therefore the top can be excited more. Basically you hit the string transfers the energy through the saddle into the bridge, makes the top move up and down, and you get all that frequency developing inside the instrument.
Right.
So forward shifted allows you to create a bigger soundboard. But again, you can't just keep taking things away. You've got to make sure it's strong enough to last, and also to achieve the tone you want. So we use large maple bridge plates underneath here.
Okay.
So it puts some of the structural integrity back that we need. We also like the tone of maple. You can use rosewood for bridge plates, or the types of wood. We've always worked with maple recently. And then beyond that, you have tone bars or face braces, which are the braces which do not bring structural integrity. They form the voicing of that guitar. It's those tone bars that you can scallop, you can shave, you can taper. If it didn't have these braces in the soundboard, it would be very boomy, very loud. There'd be frequency bouncing all over the place. So the placement, the weight, how much scalloping, and the design of those tone bars, for me, really, really reflects how you voice that instrument. Mm-hmm. And we try different things for different body shapes, and for different size guitars, and even different genre guitars, actually, to try and achieve the right voicing for that model.
That's fascinating, how much you can really shape and control all that.
Yeah, and also like most guitar makers, we take a lot of the mass out the X as well. So the X, we will scallop that fairly heavily where we're allowed to. You still got to be very strong, mm-hmm. but everything matters in an instrument. An acoustic guitar is a very simple product. There's however many pieces of wood there are and some strings, but because there's so much tension in an acoustic guitar, there's anything from 120 to 180 pounds of the pressure between the nut and the saddle, depending on the scale length. And that top is anything from 2.5 to 3 millimeter.
Right.
So that's a lot of pressure and a lot of tension. So getting that balance of strength and vibration is really what it's all about.
Right, right. Now you have a number of lines in the Alvarez family, we'll say, mm-hmm. And the higher end lines, mm-hmm. there's a lot of hand craftsmanship that goes in there, and you have master luthiers that are Correct. Working on these guitars.
Yeah.
And they're shaping them.
Correct. I think one thing that's quite different about Alvarez and Alvarez Yairi is we do have, depending on who's at the factory at the time, there's 25 to 28 apprentice trained, people who have dedicated their lives to building guitars. There's some guys that are master luthiers. Kohei, who has been there 50-something years at the same bench. And, his inlay work is just unbelievable. And you meet him, he's very humble. He's so pleased that people will go and see him. And he's so thankful that people enjoy his work even. lovely, lovely person. They all are. They're all wonderful. I don't think as many brands can say you've got 25, 28 luthiers and 4 master luthiers. And what we try and create in Yairi is, or hopefully not try, but what we do is have that culture where it's constant improvement, which comes from Mr. Yairi. Mr. Yairi passed away in 2013. And all he'd ever done, he was in his 80s, is make guitars. He walked in his family business, and that's all he ever did. And buy tone wood and learn how to build instruments.
Right.
And his people love him. I mean, he's like I did. He's just such a charismatic, sort of great guy. And you get ingrained in that, and you keep doing it. We have lots of creative people in the team, and we all want to keep doing R&D and keep doing that stuff. So Yairi is an amazing place. There's tone wood everywhere.
Because he collected it over the years.
Kearney is sort of north of Nagoya in the hills. There's not a lot there, and he did very well in his life. And I think he probably. He built houses for his workers. There's houses there that have been there 20, 30 years.
Made out of rosewood and
I mean, there's rosewood tables and chairs, and the tongue and groove rosewood walls in the office, mahogany floorboards in the factory. I mean, wood everywhere. I mean, even in the rafters, every place you just smell cut tone wood. And I think, I was telling you earlier, we found this Honduran rosewood in a piece of land near the factory, which had been there 50 years. All these billets of Honduran sitting there, and then we make instruments with them, and that's why it's so light. When you say,
this guitar is just featherweight. Man, it's amazing, and that translates to such vibration.
Such vibration. So all of that's their culture, and then what we try and do is we R&D a lot in Yairi, and we try and keep that voice throughout that's our kind of family voice, and we try and keep it right to our very affordable instruments, our sort of $300 solid tops. Mm-hmm. So similar kind of voicing. Obviously it gets better as you use better components, but in Yairi they tune throughout the build. So in this guitar, which is made in our more affordable Alvarez factory in China, makes our solid tops and our all solids. We design these instruments, but what's very important around that is designing the process that we can achieve great quality day in, day out.
Right.
So designing the systems and the processes, where here you're designing the instrument, and we try and keep that instrument design throughout everything.
Right. One of the other design hallmarks that contributes so much to that voice is the bridge design. Yeah. And you've got the bi-level bridge on that one, and this one you said is the direct coupled. Correct. When we were talking earlier. Yeah. Tell us why the bridges are different.
So Mr. Yairi invented this in the late 80s. He was a big fan of string tension, and he liked to drive the top, and he liked sustain, which you both get from string tension, and he thought it increased the volume. He came up with this idea, and what he wanted to do was create the ultimate break angle of strings from the saddle to the top. Okay. To try and get as much down pressure on the saddle as possible, so you could get as much energy in the instrument. Our strings are slightly tauter than many instruments when you feel that. So, and that comes from this design.
You're right.
This is a two-piece system, so he actually put the pins in the top, which is very, very difficult to do without damaging an instrument. This one we can't do it in mass production, so we use a one-piece version of the direct coupled two-piece. Okay. And this is a composite material that the pins go in. It's a mix of ebony and the material you use for circuit boards, and it's great, and it gives us a very unique look, and it has great functionality. Yeah, absolutely. Boy, the visual beauty of the instruments as well. I mean, the guitar you're holding with the rounded upper bout and the comfort rounding and everything. Yeah. I mean, it's just gorgeous. Yeah. So this is from our Masterworks Elite in the Alvarez range, and this is all solid black walnut. And we do shadow burst is what we call our painting, and this one has a bevel armrest. Beautiful. Which lots of our guitars have. This was a really slim one, is just to take the edge off, especially if you're playing live. And so the bevel is ebony. We use a power balloon. You can actually buy these strips processed, and they're in long strips like this, but we don't use those. We put these in piece by piece. Nice. Because it looks pretty. Right. And because the processed stuff is a little dull, so it sort of has a grey tone to it. So yeah, this is Masterworks Elite, and then we have Masterworks. Anything with Masterworks, the name Masterworks in Alvarez means it's made of all solid wood, which means that there are no laminate construction in the instruments. So everything's solid veneers, the back, sides, top, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And with the all solid guitars, which the primary growth of our line for the last few years has been in all solid instruments, and it's people, I think the internet just teaching people more about tone and sound that are sort of becoming more discerning.
Sure.
And they're either plumping for something a little bit more designed in those higher echelons. So when you have, firstly, your top should always be solid, because that's where you're generating the activity. When you use the laminated backs and sides, there's different laminates you can use. We use very high quality laminates, so our mahogany is all mahogany. We don't use some mystery white wood in the middle. And the reason we don't use that is because when you have all this frequency being generated by the top and it comes off the back, what an all solid instrument does is the reflection is quicker and the quality of reflection is better. So you get a better, stronger, rounder, more woody note from the instrument. Where a laminated guitar, some of that will be dampened and you won't capture as much as you would from a solid instrument. So that's why we love using all solid woods, and we love people sort of trending towards that these days.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Well, regardless of the line and the price point, I mean, the instruments are very consistent in, as you said, the voice and the playability as well. You mentioned the strings are a little tauter, but I really don't notice that. It's just because the playability is so good on the instruments as well.
Great. You've got to be able to play them.
Well, there's that. Yeah.
Action's important. When you make a lot of instruments at a factory setup, we tend to stay fairly safe, so we won't take it down too much because we do leave it up to the final owner. But we certainly have a very playable action, straight out of the box. And then obviously at Sweetwater, they go through your guitar gallery, and those guys will make sure it's dialed really, really in. So it comes out the box and it's ready to play, basically.
Right, right.
On our necks, we use something called a complex curve. So here there is a soft V, and that changes into a C shape around about the 5th fret.
Okay.
So where the V could sit in the palm of your hand when you're down towards the nut, it's more comfortable, and it transitions into a C. And somebody does that in Yairi, one guy with a spoke shave shaves every single neck.
No way.
By hand. No CNC there.
That's amazing craftsmanship that you could be even remotely consistent with that. That's just amazing.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That is crazy. Well, they're such beautiful instruments, and we're so happy to have them here at Sweetwater and to have Alvarez Yairi as part of the Sweetwater family. And it's great to have you here as well. It's fun jamming with you, man.
Fun jamming with you, and thanks for having us. We're really pleased to be here.
Absolutely. We're going to do some more videos. We're going to talk about some of the different lines and things. So going to continue having fun with these great instruments.
Great. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Look forward to it. Thank you. Great to see you. And thank you for joining us here at Sweetwater. I'm Mitch Gallagher.